Hey YouTube, I'm Sean and welcome back to Part-Time Fab. So today, since we've finished our stand, our universal stand, it's time to make some accessories to go along with this. So the grinder is great to have, but you always need more attachments. So we're going to take this one off, set it to the side. What we're going to do today is we're going to make a flat plate to mount on top of this. Now you might use this for flattening out some sheet metal, rounding parts. You might use it for a quick welding table. The uses for this are really endless. I saw this piece at the junkyard, the scrap yard rather, and it's really thick. It's definitely more than ½ inch, probably around 3/4, maybe 5/8, something like that. I haven't measured it. But what I want to do is square the edges up, make it nice. I even think I may round 2 of the edges, maybe at different radiuses, but have 2 of the other edges, they'll be sharp 90s. We won't get this one finished up today, so you may notice that in the video. I'm actually ran out of welding argon, so I'll have to go out and get some of that this week to actually finish this up. But what I'm going to do, start today, I'm going to get this cleaned up, prepped, and get it ready to weld. Because this should be a relatively short video, but still got to do the work to get it done. So let's get to it. I started out this project by grinding the sides to straighten and true them up. I started out with a very coarse disc, hoping to knock all the high spots and the really bad spots down. As you can see later, I switched over to a sanding disc to refine the shape or the sides somewhat. Also, you can see that at a certain point I was testing with which process gave me the smoothest side, and I finally found that using a pen, a Sharpie, to mark down the sides and a file to skim across the top, I could easily locate the high spots and then take my sanding disc to knock those down for a very smooth finish. After finishing cleaning up the sides, the next thing I decided to do was to clean the face of the plate, both front and back. I knocked all the rust off. I think I even used a wire wheel at some point to clean everything up and to get a good finish. Also checked it for levelness, but there really wasn't anything I could do even if it was out of level. But if I remember right, it was very true. The next thing I did was to clean up and test fit the slide part. So what I did was I cleaned the sides, and then I used a file to knock down the weld seam inside of the tube. This weld seam, it was really tricky to get that knocked down, and I experimented with a lot of different ways, but finally found that this very thin file was the best way to clean that weld seam up. I used both the large side of the file and the side of the file. This really helped me knock down all of the weld seam. So the next thing you'll see is I'm marking my corners. and I'm using different radius devices to mark those corners. This will give me a better layout table for maybe different radiuses for bending different things. So I'm almost ready to weld the slide and the top together. So the next thing I need to do is bevel the slide. And that will give me plenty of penetration to make a good solid weld. So I'm ready to pull the welder out and get started, and wouldn't you know it, I'm out of argon. So it's off to the supply store I go. When buying gas or argon, you really should buy the largest bottle that you can afford. This, as you can see here, this is an 80 CFM tank, and it's by no means the largest tank you can get, but it's what I could afford at the time. I could have got a 125 or 300 CFM, and I could have saved a little bit of money over the time, over a period of time. But this tank should last me quite a while and give me a good return on investment as far as the cost of argon. So we're ready to weld, and I'm finally going to do the right thing. I'm going to pull out a piece of scrap metal to do some test welds on to make sure my welder is set to the optimal welding settings, so we can have the best weld, or hope for the best weld that we can get. And finally, we're ready to put the slide and the top together. So I'm using my magnetic tool again, the 90-degree magnet. It really helps holding things at a 90-degree angle, so I can position them correctly and it can make it plumb. So as you'll see, I'm using my square and a hammer to make sure everything is aligned properly and will be the best it can be. As you can see, I've already got everything tacked in place. I'm going to make a few dry runs to make sure that I can get from one side to the other, and then we're going to weld these together. Okay, everything's welded together, and we'll give it a little spin here and let you look at the welds. Now that everything's welded together and solid, we can use our scribe lines and cut the corners off to make those nice radiuses that we marked earlier. Having these different radiuses will give me somewhere to bend things on later projects. It really should improve things. So finally, having a grinding stand, I really wanted to give it a try. So I tried to grind this 1/2-inch plate with my 1/2 horsepower grinder. It really didn't work all that well, so I had to switch over and use the angle grinder to finish those radiuses off. And there we are. Those radiuses are ground nice and they look pretty smooth. They should help a whole lot in future projects. With all of that done, we're ready to get started with the most mundane part of this project, and that's the painting. I really dislike this part because it's just like the old saying goes, watching paint dry. When you're really wanting to get something done and get it out the door, you can't rush this. You just have to let it take its time. And finally, here we go. After a few hours of letting the paint dry, so to speak, we are finally finished. that stand looks really nice. I've kind of rethought the black paint after a while. I actually wished I'd went with maybe the same color blue as the chassis jig, but this Anvil, whatever you want to call it, it's really turned out well. And at the editing of this video, I've actually used it several times, and it's been a big help. I'm sure it'll be in many more videos in the future, but that's all for today, and I want to thank you for watching, and I'd like to ask you to rate, comment, and hit that big subscribe button. And if you'd like to share this video with your friends on Facebook or any other Google Plus page or something like that, please do. And we'll see you next time on Part-Time Fab.